Now that we've got everything added to the cheesecloth, we'll wait for it to filter through. You may be tempted. Yo, welcome back to Herbistry 420. I'm your host, 40. Today we're making tincture from Rosin Pucks. In fact, in a previous video, I showed you how to decarb Rosin Pucks into pop by noise. In today's video, what I did is I took roughly 200 grams of Rosin Pucks. I used this coffee grinder right here. I ground them down into a powder. I added it up to this mason jar and I decarbed it in the mason jar in the oven for 45 minutes at 230 to 240 degrees Fahrenheit or 110 to 115 degrees Celsius. I then shook this up, put it in the freezer. The cannabis or the rosin pucks that are decarbed should be in the freezer for at least 24 hours. Same is true for your alcohol. The alcohol was in the freezer for at least 24 hours. Now, we're doing the Q-wet technique, which is quick wash ethanol extraction. It requires you to freeze your alcohol as well as your cannabis that's been decarbed in the freezer for at least 24 hours before you do this. Now let's answer a couple questions. This is the same technique. If you wanted to use just regular herb, you could. You don't have to use rosin pucks. We're using rosin pucks for this video. How potent are rosin pucks? Depends on the efficiency of your press. It's probably gonna be 10 to 20% of the original potency of the puck, right? Next, can you use less than 95% alcohol? 95% alcohol is 190 proof. It is the most efficient for extracting when using ethanol. Could you use 150 proof? You could. Could you use 80 proof? You could. In fact, I did a video comparing 190 proof to 80 proof as far as efficiency is concerned. Check the link at the top if you're curious about watching it. 40 proof alcohol or 80 proof alcohol, which is 40%, has a lot more water content. It's not only going to extract less of the THC, cannabinoids, and so forth, but because there's such a high water content, it's gonna pull more chlorophyll and undesirables. So obviously, if you can, use 190 proof. Now, what brand you use, whether it's Everclear or some other brand, it doesn't matter. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna cover your material with the ethanol. In fact, let's do that. I'm gonna open this mason jar up, and let me just show you real quick on this video. This is what the decarb cannabis looks like. We're gonna go ahead and take our ethanol and we're gonna cover the material that's in here. Now, mind you, this is frozen, so it's a bit cold to the touch. I don't want the bottle to slip out of my hand, but all I wanna make sure is that I cover the rosin pucks with this, right? You have to at least cover the material. All I did was make sure the material was covered with this alcohol. Let's move it off to the side. I'll grab the mason jar, making sure the top is screwed on tight. We'll start to shake this for a second. Then we're gonna go ahead and put it in the freezer for 5 minutes. We'll take it out, we'll shake it again. Put it back in the freezer for another 5 minutes. We'll take it out, we'll shake it again, and then we'll strain it. I'll see you guys then, baby. All right, it's been about 15 minutes, and you might be asking yourself, why didn't I shake this the whole time, right? The reality is, because we used a coffee grinder, the cell walls of the plant material are quite damaged and therefore could release more chlorophyll. So by not shaking this non-stop means potentially released a little bit less chlorophyll. I've got a cheesecloth right here. I've got a bottle that the tincture or the alcohol comes with. We'll go ahead and strain it into there. I do have the T-check out. I haven't used it in a really long time, so I wonder if it still works. If it does, we'll go ahead and test the final product. Now that we've got everything added to the cheesecloth, we'll wait for it to filter through. You may be tempted to take a silicone spatula and hurry the process along. Remember, the material was ground down in a coffee grinder, so using a silicone spatula or something to force this process along is gonna force some particulate matter through the cheesecloth. So I would avoid it if you can. I'll see you guys when this is done, and we'll attempt to test it with the T-check. All right, this is what we're left with. As you can see, it's quite green, which means there's quite a bit of chlorophyll. I wanted to test it using the T-check, but the reality is it's not registering. I diluted it by a multiplier of 5, which means that this tincture is either over 75 milligrams per milliliter, or it's the chlorophyll and plant material that's throwing the test off. The T-check measures things by light. So the way the light reflects off the material that's in the tray will give a reading, right? So it could be the chlorophyll is throwing off the test. I'm gonna write to T-check. I'll put in the top comment what they say in response to this. Now, I'd love to test it right now, but I'm about to go out with my sister and my niece is only 11 years old, and I don't want to be obliterated while we're out at lunch, going to the beach, whatever. Anyways, guys, gals, everybody, put in the comments if you have any questions about this And guys, gals, everybody, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like, share, comment, subscribe. You know the deal, baby. Till next time.